companions were different from us, but it's the same struggle they had. You know, like for example, many of the companions struggle a lot with. You remember when Islam started evolving, many of them struggle with alcohol. You know, they were not free from addiction. It took a while. So we may feel, in as much as that they were promised Jannah, that they were like people, ideal situation, commit no sins. Absolutely not. They went through the same struggle we are going through. And so there are lessons through the struggle, how we look at them and how we approach our life. And the lesson when we look at them is that you never give up change. You never give up change. And so there is one incident I would like to relate to you. It's one of the companions by the name of Abu Mahjan al-Thaqafi. Abu Mahjan, radiallahu anhu, he was actually an alcoholic. He loves alcohol. And he used to even write poetry about alcohol. And he even in his will, he made a will that when he died, that his body should be soaked with alcohol so that he could reach the bone. That was part of his will. So you could imagine the magnitude of that addiction for alcohol. And so he said that when I die, I want you to soak my grave with khamr in his will. And so my bones can absorb it. So you imagine you talking about a serious addiction, right? But the thing is that when he became a Muslim, the struggle continues for a long time. And so he had a hard time kicking this habit, right? He is a Muslim now, but he had a hard time to overcome this habit. He used to be in the battles. He used to go in the battlefield, and he used to fight with the companions and stuff like that. But when he come back, he gone into his old story. So there is an incident that whenever he drinks, they would lash. The part of the Islamic rule is that he will be lashed for that, and so he don't mind. He used to go through that. So this was something he continued for a long time. He continued under the leadership of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He continues under the leadership of Umar radiallahu anhu. You could imagine how long it took him to really get out of this habit. And even as he became old during the time of Umar, in the Battle of Qadisiyah, right? That was the Battle of Qadisiyah. They were fighting this great oppressor, Kisra, right? And so the people, of course, the people of Persia. So one of the most important battle in Islamic history under the leadership of Umar. And so what happened is that his punishment for drinking is that he will be not allowed to go into the battlefield. That was his punishment. You can imagine if that becomes our punishment. Say, okay, man, you go ahead. I mean, I love that punishment, not to fight, right? But he got very worried because he was not allowed to go into the battlefield. And so what happened that under the leadership of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, under the leadership of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he banned him from going into this battle of Qadisiyah. Qadisiyah was a very important battle. So what happened, he locked him up in one of the chamber of not too far from his house. And so he started to wail, he started to cry, why are you keeping me away from this battle? I want to go and fight for the cause of Allah. Although he had that addiction, right? Although he was an alcoholic, although he had an issue. And so he said that I cannot deal with you. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas says, I cannot deal with you, man. You just stay here. When we come back, because this is an important battle, we will discuss this and your punishment will be meted out. So this guy, he started to cry, radiallahu anh, and he wailed so hard that the wife of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Salma, radiallahu anha, she hears him, crying loudly, and she thinks something happened to him because she knows that he was in the chamber actually. And so she ran out and she said to him, Mabik, what's the matter with you? And he said, I don't know why your husband forbid me from going into this battle, but I'm begging you, can you allow me to go? She says, no, I can't, because my husband says that you should be in this chamber. You cannot go into this battle. And if I do that, and he started to promise her that, okay, I'm going to go, I will fight, and I will come back. She says, how can I believe you that you would do this? He says, I promise you that I would go to this battlefield and I will come back and, I will go back in the chamber and lock myself up. Nobody would know. So she somehow or the other recognized some sort of truthfulness in him, right? That this guy is sincere. And she allowed him to go. So he wrapped his head and his face, and he was fighting in this battle fiercely. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he saw somebody, right, who was fighting, and he never know, who is this guy? And this man was fighting with his full valor and conviction. Everyone around him, he slaughtered, left, right, and every corner. And when the battle is over, he was missing. And so Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he said to the other Sahaba, he said there was a man whose face was completely wrapped. Please, you guys look for him and see if he's around. Because I was looking on onto this battle from distance, and I see him fighting with such conviction. See where he is. And they were looking for bodies, and they saw all the bodies, but there was nobody to be found with their face wrapped. He went back, he went to the chamber, he told Salma radiallahu anha, I am back, lock me back in this chamber. He was wounded all over there were wounds all over his body. He was tremendously wounded, but he fought with conviction in the battlefield. So after the battle, Sa'd ibn Waqqas came home, and it's a normal thing. After a while, there will be a conversation, with your wife, how things went, how was the battle, and so the story came up, and he said to her, there was a man that was fighting with such conviction, but I don't know who he is. His face was completely wrapped, and after the battle, I asked all the companions to look for him, but he was nowhere to be found. And I don't know, I am puzzled, I don't know who is this person. And Salma radiallahu anha says, do you know who is that? He says, no, I don't. He said, that was Abu Mahjan al-Thaqafi. Sa'd ibn Waqqas started to cry. And he said, where he is? She said, he is in the chamber. He came back, he locked himself up, and she didn't went in. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas went into the chamber and he saw him. There were wounds all over his body. He grabbed him, he started to cry. He says, may Allah grant you Jannah for all that you do. And he was crying so profusely. And Sa'd started to tend to his body, and he grabs Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and he says, I promise you, I would never go back to alcohol. I will kick this habit completely. Brothers, lesson here. Never judge somebody You may see someone, they're going through an addiction, but you have to use the Quran, the revelation, to get out of addiction. This is what the Quran does, and this is what the Sahaba did, right? They were struggling. Our addiction may be different types of addiction, right? Not necessarily alcohol. It could be, addiction to the dunya. It could be addiction to pornography. It could be addiction to drugs. We cannot get out of it. But we need to look towards the revelation and see how we can pull ourselves. And when we see somebody like that, don't completely push them away. Treat them well. You don't know when that person can change. Like Abu Mahjan al-Thaqafi. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us, that we can have the temerity and the know-how that whenever we are in situations like these, we can pull ourselves off and look towards Allah for change. And we have to make that change, right? Inna Allah yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah would not change the condition of a people until they themselves make a change. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us, for us to recognize where our weaknesses are and make a change. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم والسائر المسلمين كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.